Hi everyone, Chris Natzke here with Black Belt Leadership Speaking and Coaching with your Mind of a Champion tip of the week. Today I want to talk about the concept of competition. As I've been reflecting on this note this week, I was thinking about how the idea and the concept of competition has really changed for me throughout my life. In my younger years, when I was a martial art competitor and a football player in both high school and college, competition was about beating the other guy. And it wasn't oftentimes just beating the other guy, it was about dominance. And then as I got older, I realized the competition started to change its form. It started to turn into what we refer to in martial arts as healthy competition. So I'd be in competition with someone in a drill, working out, but it was really to make myself better and to make that other person better so we could use that energy to benefit one another. And then finally what happened is competition, the awareness really came for me that the only person I'm really in competition with is myself. About 4 years into owning my martial arts studio, I had what at the time I thought was an absolute business crisis. I got a phone call from one of my good friends and fellow martial arts instructors saying he'd received a promotional fax. Okay, I'm dating myself, but he received a promotional fax of a competitive martial arts school that was literally moving in a mile east of my location. Now, I had been in business, as I said, for about 4 years, and things were finally starting to gain traction. And when I heard that news, I went into total and complete panic. All the things in my mind started going on about how I might lose my business. What was I going to do with my family? Was I going to have to lay off of my staff? And so I went into total fear. And luckily, I had some really wise, sage people in my corner that I had as business mentors in the martial art business. So I gave them both a call and told them my story of gloom and doom. And to a person, they basically gave me the same advice. They said this: Chris, there's nothing you can do about that other martial arts school. The only thing you can have any impact or control over is you. Well, I hung up that phone, and I have to say I had to really let that sink in. But as it started to kind of percolate inside of me, I realized they were absolutely right. And so what I did is I called an emergency staff meeting for all of my employees at the time, and I told them the news about our new neighbor that was moving in down the street. And as soon as I shared that with them, I could literally see the fear overtake their face. And when I saw that fear, I realized they were going through the same thing as I had. And this is what I said to them. I said, gentlemen, this is how it is. I said, there's nothing we can do about that school down the street. I can't go beat up the instructor, at least legally. We can't firebomb the place. There's that legal thing again. But what we can do is we can make sure we are the very best we've ever been. We can do a better job answering the phones. We can do a better job with our introductory programs and our enrollment process. And we can make sure this is the cleanest martial arts studio in the city. And finally, we can teach the very best classes out there. Well, I have to tell you, as I was saying this to my staff, I could literally see the tension lift from their face and from their shoulders. And we all left that meeting with a brand new determination and commitment to excellence. Well, how did the story shake out? Well, I'm happy to report that about a year later, we literally had the best year of my 17 years that I had at Family Martial Arts Center. Our revenue grew over 33%, and because of that, I was able to bring on my top 3 staff members full-time from their part-time positions. It was literally the greatest gift I could have ever received. So from that, I basically learned 3 lessons that I want to share with you. And number one, I've kind of alluded to already, is number one, is the only person we're ever really in competition with is ourselves. When we have things from the outside that we feel might be endangering what we currently have, or it might be putting us on edge, understand that really, truly, the only person that we have to compete with and worry about is ourselves and how we're going to react to it. Because when we focus on that, that's when we take our power back. Number two, when I think about that competitor moving down the street from me, it was actually the greatest gift I could have received. Because what ended up happening was I now had to look at my business in a totally different way. I had to look at some of the areas that I had to improve on, and there were plenty of those to do it. But without that, I don't know if I would have. And I don't know if I would have reached the level of success that I did. And then finally, is I've realized that we are much more in power when we're working towards something or for something than against something. Okay, let me say that again. We're much more in power when we're working for something or towards something, in my case, improving my school, than against something, which would have been against that other competitive school down the road. You know, I always love the story of Mother Teresa that I heard, that during the peak of the Vietnam War, they asked Mother Teresa if she would lead them in a march against the war. And this was at the height of anti-war demonstrations, and she flatly said no. And when the demonstrators looked at her and said, "How can that be?" she said, "If you have a march against the war, I will not be there. But if you have a march for peace, I will lead you." Okay, so that's it, folks. So this week, I really like you to consider, do you have times in your life, do you have challenges that are coming up right now where your livelihood or what you feel is your security is being challenged? And how are you dealing with that? Are you looking at it as something you need to work against, or are you looking at it, taking a breath, and looking at it for what it is, and understanding that the only person that can really have control of this situation is you and what you can do about it? So the idea there is who you're really in competition with, and what are you going to do about it? So there you have it, my friends. That's my message for you today. And by the way, having this idea about competition and how I looked at it was a real breakthrough for me. And if you're interested in having a breakthrough in your own life, just go ahead and take a look at the link. Go to my website, chrisnatzke.com, and download my free report, The Top 10 Big Ideas to Create Breakthroughs. Because I think what you can do is take that information to really take what you might be dealing with and be able to move through it in a whole new and empowered way. So until next time, my friends, this has been Chris Natzke with Black Belt Leadership Speaking and Coaching, and we'll see you next time on the Mind of a Champion Tip of the Week.